Hey guys, welcome to this art kit tutorial. We are going to be doing this super cute little bunny. I'm so excited to do this. I have been waiting months and months to get to this one. I'm going to do this one a little bit more expressively, kind of more like, I guess, a little more abstract to it. Just have fun with it. So it won't be so, I don't know, what's sort of like perfectionistic as far as like, or realistic. Yeah, that's my brain today. So yeah, we're just gonna have fun with this art kit today. So basically your art kit will look similar to this, but it will have the image of the final piece when we're done. I create these and then I make the art kits for them. So you'll get to see, like if you purchase this, you'll see the actual image of the bunny on the front completed. Your kit should include the paint needed for this piece. It'll have a paper palette, which is like a little piece of paper. Let me show you. This one already has paint on it, but it will be a blank, smooth piece of paper. You're going to want to use the smooth side as your paint palette. And I know not everybody has a white plate, so I figured I would include that piece of palette that you can use. It'll include the brush or brushes that are needed for this piece. One watercolor page, it'll have a blank one, and then one that has the image on it already for you. And then the blank one is for you to be able to practice on to do like different, here's like a little scrap one, to be able to practice just with pressure with your brush to get different marks, or you want to make sure that you can do a specific, motion or something. That way you have a piece to practice on. And then let's see, it'll have a basics on watercolor. It will have a bio from me, the watercolor paints that are needed. I think I already said that. Those will be in there. The link to this tutorial, obviously it's how you found the video. So yeah, it's got just some helpful stuff. And like the paint is on this acrylic paper. Yeah, that's the right word, I think. So yeah, you got your palette, the two pieces of paper, then a quick little blurb on watercolor, like the basics of it. And yeah, so you're gonna wanna make sure you have a paper towel that you can use to clean your brush off with or get too much water off with. You're gonna want 1 to 2 jars of clean water. I'm gonna be using this vase today. And then I recommend like a little pint size like mason jar that you can put water in for the clear or like clean water, I guess is what you would call it. And then if you want, you can use painter's tape or masking tape to tape off your edges. Because this sketch kind of goes all over technically, I am not going to be taping mine down today. And then sometimes I end up using a spray bottle of water, so you can just pick one of these up at like Walmart for like 99 cents in the travel shampoo and soaps. I think that's where I got this one. Or any just spray bottle that you have with water in it. And then as I go through this video, I will be writing down the colors that I'm using and the brush or brushes that I ended up using, so that way I know what exactly to put in like each kit. But yeah, we're just gonna kind of have fun with this, let loose, just let yourself have fun. This is time for you to like, relax, unwind. When I'm painting, I typically am listening to music. I jam out while I'm painting. I do have some current ones going. I guess I can show you guys some of those. There's some current pieces on the easel that I'm working on. So I have quite a bit of projects. I have a big show toward the end of the year, and I want to make sure I have my portfolio completed. So I have a lot going on. So I'm trying to stay on track. I haven't made a new art kit in a while, so I feel kind of bad. Normally I make a couple a month, but I'm finally getting back into the routine of things. So I guess we can just go ahead and get started. So we're for sure probably going to use maybe some white toward the end. So I'm going to pull out some different colors. I got some burnt sienna out because I do see that on there. I also see some yellow ochre on the photo source that I'm using. Let me see if I can find the white. And I have tons and tons of different brands of watercolor. My favorite is Da Vinci, and I also have some of the Milan watercolor. Actually, I think I got their whole collection because I love the color choices they pick out. They're gorgeous. Yeah, so I will include a link to the Da Vinci paints because like I have tons and tons of their sets. They're very, very pigmented. I love using their paints. So hopefully I got this in frame. I tried to zoom in. I actually got a new camera too, so hopefully this will be a good view. Because I'm not quite sure how to put it directly above like I was doing my phone, but my phone would not cooperate. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get my brush wet in my water, and I'm going to basically just kind of add water to my paper and get it kind of wet because I want to make this very loose and expressive. So getting your paper moist definitely helps when you just kind of want to get some colors in there and not so perfect. All right, so I do want to get the burnt sienna out. Oh, I actually have some in there. Why am I doing that? Okay, so we are going to use some of, let's see, burnt sienna. Yes, this one. Looks like I should have activated my paints a little bit here before I got going. Okay, and with this, when you start with your watercolor, you work with the lightest, most transparent colors first, and then you work up to the darkest. It's kind of the opposite from like when you're painting, you do light to dark, yes, but with watercolor, you're going to put in the lightest values first, meaning you're going to add more water to your paint to make it more transparent and lighter in value. So I'm just going to add a bunch of water to this till I have the right color value that I'm going for. So I'm just going to kind of put this where I want to loosely. But I'm also kind of looking at where it would be technically darker in a sense. So like around the ears on the outside is typically darker, maybe right here along the head, but I'm not going for perfect. I want this to be loose and expressive and fun. So we're not going to have like maybe all the traditional colors that you would see. We're going to make this pretty colorful and fun. And that is pretty dark. So let's go in and add some more water, kind of lighten it up. But this kind of gives us a nice little just place to start, really, with our piece. Plus, you don't feel so like stuck in perfection mode, I guess is the right word. So I just want to kind of bring it to life, have some fun. Let's see. Just to get, some color down too. So then you're not so scared about being perfect. And we can always go in and put some different colors in as well. Maybe for the background, we might use, what color is this? I think this is my magenta. Whoop, flinging paint everywhere. Yeah, Magenta Rose by Da Vinci. So pretty. Okay, so actually, you know what? I'll do some of that, yes, but I also want to do some greenery in the background because there is quite a bit of pinks and a good contrast to that would be the green. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of put some of that magenta rose down for some of the background, just to kind of bring it to life a little bit. And maybe a little bit over here. I like kind of playing with the backgrounds a little bit because you can be fun and loose and abstract with those too. So okay, the next one I want to use is probably the olive green. I think I'm going to toss some of that in there just to give it a little something else. And I'm watering it down so that way it's pretty light. Bottom here. And you can make this, you know, as dark or light as you'd like for the background. Do whatever you want. I'm going to kind of mix some of that magenta a little bit with some of that green. It'll make it more of a brown because when you mix complements, it turns brown. So it's getting like a... Plus it kind of makes your piece look more cohesive when you're using similar colors. There we go. Okay, so now we don't have to stress. We've already kind of loosened up, made a mess, had some fun with it. And then we can go into being expressive with some colors. I think I'm going to put some dark areas in to kind of map out things. So let's see, where do I want to be in? Actually, you know what? I should follow and stick to the rule, the light to dark. I get so ahead of myself because there's like so many things I like to do. Okay, let's see here. So this is going to be the white areas. That's going to be white. So I'm kind of seeing some purpley colors in here. So let's see, what is this one? Mauve. That looks like a fun color. Let me check this one out and see if it's going to be what I'm looking for. Not so much. Let's mix that with some of the green. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take some of the mauve color and I mixed it with some of that olive green, but I'm going to water it down quite a bit more. So if you guys can see that on the palette. And I'm just going to go alongside just this area right here in the ear. So probably to right about here. So I'm just going to kind of fill that in. And if you get outside lines, no big deal. You can just wipe it off or use your paper towel. Don't stress. Here, I might have to do some of this left-handed so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm just doing this portion over here by the ear with that mauve and olive green. Just right about here, kind of where that line goes up past the eye, kind of meets right there. And then I'm also going to do some up here, this little sharp triangle. I'm going to get some more on my brush. Let's see. Okay, Where else do I want to do that color? I kind of see some over here, but it's lighter. So I'm going to make sure and add quite a bit of water. So we're going to do along this side of the ear now to probably about where this eyelash is, right here. So I'm going to kind of mark it, and then just going to do a line down. And as it goes up toward the tip of the ear, it's going to be thinner. So it's going to get more pointed. And then where else do I see this color? Kind of see some in this area. So above where the eyelashes are, I kind of see some right in here too. So right there above, just above that eyelash. That fur has the same color. And then I also see it a little bit above here in this eye, and a little bit right there. Cool. And maybe just up in this section right here. All right. So we got that. And as this area is starting to dry, we won't touch those until they do get a little more dry. That mauve color I also see up in this tip of the ear. So we're just gonna, actually, I'm gonna kind of drag a thin line down like that. And then I'm gonna kind of cover this little cove right here in the ear. That mauve with the green is really pretty. I'm trying to see if I see that color anywhere else before I switch to a new one. I think I'll add just a touch more of the mauve in there just to make it a little more purpley, more on the violet side. And then I'm going to water that down again. There we go. Let's see, where do I see that? I kind of see that above, kind of above this eye right here, over like this and down, and then a little bit over here, kind of down in this section. And let's see, a little bit right here on the nose, over toward the nose, there we go. On this side of the nose, and then kind of in this area. And it kind of comes down like that, down like this, and a little bit over toward the whiskers. Okay. Ooh, I see some really pretty blues coming up. Okay, so we're going to be using, I'm going to grab some more of that olive green just by itself for now. And then I might add some of the burnt sienna to it. So can you guys see that color? Okay, I'm going to add some more of the green because I want this to be more on the green side. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the olive green. There we go. So mostly olive green with a touch of the burnt sienna for the mouth area. And if you have too much paint, you can always just do some extra little dabs on your palette or just kind of lightly swipe or touch your paper. And in the mouth area, I do see this green. So we're going to go ahead and put the green there. That is pretty. And then I also see some of it down in the chest area. So we are just going to kind of place some right along here. And it's almost in like a little triangle. Now when you're painting, you want to make sure the direction your brush is going matches with the direction of the fur or the shape of the contour that you're working with. So here's an example. For this painting right here, we're doing the green that we kind of see in this area, but the fur goes down. So I'm making downward strokes. You wouldn't go sideways because then it wouldn't mimic the fur. You'd want to go down with the direction, like the plane or the plane shifts that you're going in. You want to go with that direction. So that's how you know that you're, like the way you're holding your brush, the direction that you're painting it in. Okay, that needs to go up a little higher. There we go. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush out till I kind of recalibrate, see what I'm doing here. Oh, I actually see some of that green on the tip of the nose too. So that same olive green with just that touch of burnt sienna, we're just going to stick on the tip of the nose, kind of like a downward triangle. Cute, I didn't even see that. And it will be a little higher because there will be some pink that we're putting on the tip of the nose, but I also see it around the nostrils, on the top line of the nostril and a little below it. So there we go. Barely see anything on this side, so we'll put just a tiny bit above that nostril. Let's see, do I see that green? Kind of see it coming down this way at an angle. And I think I need to get some more of that mixed up because I actually am seeing this in a lot more areas than I thought. Okay, so I'm trying to water it down as much as I can so I can make it light enough. Still looks a little dark. There we go. Want it to be pretty light, like that. I'm just going to touch my paper towel so it's not too heavy. So I do see a little bit right here on this left side. Now the green that's coming up over here is more of like a grass green. So I will have to mix a new color for that. I also see it up in the head, which is more of a blue green. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and write down some of the colors that we've already used. Burnt sienna, olive green, magenta, I think it was magenta rose. We've used mauve, and then I know we'll need the white, and then we'll probably mix up a black with some phthalo colors. So I used that. Okay, so that's what we've used so far. All right, there are some areas I do kind of want to darken up. I know I'm like getting ahead of myself, but I'm going to use some of that burnt sienna, and then I'm going to add probably a different green to make that darker. Burnt sienna has a lot of red in it, so the opposite color you would use to turn it brown or a darker brown would be like a dark green. So I pulled some burnt sienna, and then let me find a good green. What is that? I guess I can just pull it out and see. Oh, that's like a violet. Don't want that one. Okay, I do have a phthalo green. Let's see. We will toss in some phthalo green and see how dark we can get that. That's pretty. That is a really pretty green. We're actually going to end up using some of that green. Since I already mixed it up, might as well use it. And then I'm going to write down the phthalo green. Oops. I can never spell phthalo. Phthalo. Oh my gosh, that is such a weird word. Okay, so some of this green I actually see in here along the fur line, like the edge. So I'm just gonna put some of that in here. Okay, that's so fun. And then I also see that green. I'm gonna add a little bit more water to it, just to water it down a little bit. And then kind of come down this top portion here, a little bit on the side. Where else do I see it? I actually do see some of it up here, but it needs to be way more watered down because it is up in the fur along this right here. And then it kind of comes down like that. All right. Just trying to see if I see that green anywhere else. I think it's more of a brown in some areas that I see. Actually, there's some on the side of the nose too. Oh, and over here, if you guys can see that coming down underneath the eye. And then there's some up in this ear up here. So you guys can see that. And where else? Like right there along that ear. Up there. So basically what I'm doing is I'm exaggerating the colors that I see. Like it's the colors that I'm seeing in this piece or in this photo, only I'm intensifying it, like being dramatic with it, if that makes sense. So there's also a little bit down here. So we're gonna do little brush stroke motions, just kind of mimic the fur. It goes down into the right a little bit underneath this little chin area. And it kind of comes down and over and down the side. Fun. I'm just going to kind of blend that in here a little bit. A little bit on this side. Kind of up here. A little bit in the fur right there. Okay. All right, so let's see what other colors. So that same green that we were just using with the phthalo green and the burnt sienna, we're going to add just a touch of blue to it. So we'll do Prussian blue, see if that's good. If that kind of matches the color I'm seeing. Yep, cool. Okay, so if you guys can see, kind of turned it to more of a blue green. So we are going to use that up here because I am seeing it in some of the fur. A little across there. And a little bit over here. It's definitely more of a blue green. Now above the mouth, right in this area right here, we're just going to make some brush strokes that go to the right, like diagonally, and then down to there. Because I do see that right there. And then this little chin area right here, I also see it. And a little bit in the fur, so down like toward the bottom of the mouth or the chin, diagonally to the left. Right there. A little bit up on the shoulder, on this side. Let's see. Okay, got that. All right, so I'm going to kind of switch back over, I think, and add a little bit more of this green that had the olive green with the burnt sienna, that little pile. I'm going to kind of mix that in with the bluish green that we made. And I just like that. That's a good color. Okay. Trying to see where I was thinking for this one. So up in this tip of the ear over here, we're going to put that over there. And then kind of, nope, I'm not going to drag that down because that actually has more mauve. Let's see, where else do I see that color? And a good way to gauge that too is constantly look at your source. You always want to make sure you're matching the colors. So I'm going to do some diagonal little lines from the center of the chin, like underneath of it. So diagonal down to the right, and kind of just do it most of the way under the chin, but not all the way. And then I also see it down on the left side. So same thing, diagonal, but to the left this time on the bottom of the chin. Cute. I like it. Okay, so now let's bring the nose to life a little bit. I know we used the magenta rose for the outside, but to kind of tie it into the actual piece, it helps to bring whatever colors you're playing with in the back into your subject. So I do see a lot of the pink colors that we could use. We could always use mauve. Was that the one that was next to olive green? Oh, no, that was not the right thing. I did not want that blue. Okay. So we're going to mix some of that mauve. So go ahead and get some of the mauve on your palette. Get some water down. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the magenta rose. It definitely lightens it up. So we're going to do that. Just keep lightening it up a little bit. Wow, that made it like super pink. And I need to add a little bit more mauve back into that. We still want it mauve-y, but with a touch of pink. But that's going to have to be watered down significantly to use it. So I'm going to just take a little dab of the dark color and then just keep adding water to it till it's a lighter consistency. So that one still is not quite the color I'm looking for. So I'm going to add a touch of, what is this? Yellow, sienna, Payne's gray. Oh, zircon. That is a cool name. I'm gonna add just a touch of the zircon. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, I think it needs a little more of that. And then a touch more of the magenta. Holy moly. I just made it pink all over again. No. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush here. In one of these little piles I got here, I'll try to add some of that zircon too. There we go. That's more of the color I'm going for. Like a mauve-y, barely pink, but darker. Okay. And we're gonna water that down. So hopefully you guys can see that color. All right. And we are going to place that along the edge. You guys probably can't see that. Along this edge. And kind of where these eyelashes are, at the bottom. And we're going to kind of stop where that V is under the eye with that line. But then we will go ahead and go down about 3/4 of the way on this line. There we go. And then I also see this color. I kind of want to make it a little more mauvey, more smoky. So try adding some burnt sienna into that. There we go. That's good. Okay. Actually, I want some more. I'm so indecisive. Okay. So we're adding a little bit more burnt sienna to this. Ooh, that is pretty. That's a pretty color. All right, I'm going to water it down though as much as I can because that's still quite a bit of paint. See how pigmented these are? I love them. Got way too much on there. Okay, so now we're going to take that color and we're going to kind of brush to the right. And it's going to swoop down. Hopefully you guys can see that. To the edge, and then it's going to, I'm going to kind of make a swoop up. There we go. And then where else do I see this color? I actually kind of see it under the chin. So we can do some lines out like this with like the tip and the side of your brush to make it swoop to the left. And then we're going to kind of get some under here, a little bit under that green. Line right there. And then kind of goes down to the right here. And this, like right under this green, just use the tip and you're going to kind of come down from it. Okay. So you definitely want to make sure you're going the same direction that you see the fur going on your sources when you have sources. Okay, that is a pretty color. All right, do I see this anywhere else? I do. I see it up in the ear. Okay, so we're going to get some more. And we're going to kind of go up and brushing up like a flicking motion. But you're going to be using the tip and the side of your brush. So you go down and flick up. Down a little bit, flick up. So you're barely touching it, just barely any pressure and flicking up for that ear section. That is so pretty. So you guys can see that color. I'm trying to see if I see it anywhere else. It's kind of, no, that's more of a mauve up in here. So we won't do it there. So this color I do kind of see along the ear, along the edge here. So we're going to kind of swoop in. So use the tip, barely press down and swoop toward the inside of the ear. But it's not going to go down very far. So it's about 1 inch away from the head. And I'm going to just kind of take that about 1 inch away from the top of the ear too. That specific color. Let's see if I can see that anywhere else. Kind of do see that up in the top over here. Let's see. actually, if I water it down quite a bit, I do see some of that up here. So I'm going to water that down quite a bit. There we go. And it's going to be up above the eye right here. And then kind of go down in the middle for just like a little section, and then over across over that green. And there's a little bit up here above that eye. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's kind of like rolling. See, do I see a little bit down here? So just use the tip and kind of flick out to the left, because that's the direction the fur would go in. And then I think we're good for that color. I think I want to put out a little bit of the yellow ochre on this palette. Actually, do I have any over here? I don't think so. That's weird. I'm going to put some yellow ochre in one of my paint wells because I love yellow ochre. That is a beautiful color. Okay, where's my paper towel? And then the yellow ochre. I'm going to take just a touch of the yellow ochre. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the burnt sienna to it. A little bit more of the yellow ochre. There we go. That is pretty. Add some water to it. And the one thing I do love about watercolor is it reconstitutes, meaning it gets wet again when you add water. I'm going to add some more yellow ochre. There we go. It's more of like a honey color that I was going for. So that's perfect. But I still need to water that down some because it's pretty pigmented. Just a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to swipe it off a little bit. And that yellow ochre I do see with the sienna on this side of the nose. And a little bit over here. And then a little bit above the nostril. A little bit below this one. And then where else do I see it? Oh, up in this ear section here. So I see it right there, a little bit right there. This is such a pretty color. Let's see. Do I see that anywhere? I do see it kind of along this, so we're going to make some little swoops with just the tip of it on this line next to the eye. And it'll be diagonal swoops, so top to bottom would be going down toward the left. And then just a little bit on this side, but diagonal down to the right. With the tip just making little flick motions. I also see some of it along this little nose area, just along the edge. And I also see some of it up in the tip of the ear, so we're going to do that section of the ear and kind of along the edge of this ear. So I'm just making little lines left to right along the edge. And then now I'm going to do some diagonal down to the right. Here. There we go. All right, let's work on some of the inside of the ears a little bit. We'll be coming back to that color here soon, but we're going to put like a faint kind of a pink color. So some of that pink that we already have out, that magenta that we use, just take a little tiny bit of that, make a little pile, and then add some of that mixture we made with the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna. And it's going to make kind of a peachy pink. We're going to use that for the inside of the ears, but we're going to water it down a lot because this first color that we're going to place inside the ears needs to be the darkest version of that pink, or the lightest version, I'm sorry, of that pink that we're going to be using first. And then as it dries, we will go in a little bit darker to put in the dark areas for the ears. So you always start with light and then work your way to dark. So we're just putting in the middle section here. And anywhere that's normally white on the animal, you want to avoid putting any color, like barely any color, especially if it needs to be like the lightest value. Okay, so now we got some of the pink inside the middle of the ears. Let's see, and that does kind of go over into the edge a little bit. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it in there with the edges. There we go, just a little bit, because it does blend together. So I also see that peachy pink. I'm gonna add a lot of water to that just to make sure it's like super watered down. Might get a little bit more color. There we go. So you guys can see how light that is. And we're going to put that right here on the bunny's face. And this side as well. Get some of that pink tone above that eye right there. I see a little bit on that brow, on that other eye. And I think, oh, and it is kind of over here in this area of the ear, but we will darken it up, so don't worry. But try to avoid this area right here because that is actually white. We can go in and put white on there, but just because the value is so light, we don't want to like make it to the point where we can't get enough white to bring it back. So this area right here is also white, so we're going to do our best to avoid that. But we're going to put some of that pink right there and along this edge, because I do see pink underneath. A little bit up here. There we go. And then this line right here is a little pink. Okay, I always got to remember what colors I've used so far. I used yellow ochre, so I'm going to write that down. And what else? Use the mauve, the olive. I did get the magenta down. Oh, I didn't write down the zircon. That's one I needed to get down too. Zircon. So we did mix with that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to get my brush clean, and then these colors are so pretty. I'm going to go ahead and put in the really dark green color that's in the corner right here above the eyes. So we're going to go ahead and mix that up. This color over here that we used for the, like it had burnt sienna with the olive green. We're going to go ahead and use that, but I'm going to toss in some phthalo green. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to add some more burnt sienna. Oops. And then maybe a touch of, what is this one? Opus pink, the leaf green, cobalt turquoise, aqua lux. What is that color? Aqua lux. Let's add that and see what it does. Ooh, that was quite green. Okay. I think we're gonna add some more burnt sienna. Actually, that was kind of the color we were going for. Okay, so let me write that down. That color. Aqua lux. Okay. So that is like a really cool brown green. And we are going to place that, so you guys can see the edge here, just underneath that ear a little bit, and right there. And it does come down to above the eye and over. There we go. And it kind of comes down just a little bit. Okay, so we got that side. So now we're going to come over and do the other side. Kind of goes up like that. And then it goes over that eye. That was a nice color. I also see it right there. So I'm going to make a little line. A couple little lines actually. Pretty. And then it also is right here. Little fur marks using just the tip of the brush. I also see the same color but very faintly along this edge. So I'm going to kind of lighten that up as much as I can here. And just kind of drag just the tip in little tiny strokes down the side. And it does have some fur that kind of comes out from that side. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love how this is turning out. Okay, and then it is also on some of these whiskers. So the very tip of your brush, you're going to make little sweeping flicks with just the tip to do those eyelashes that are on the bottom. Oh my goodness, how cute is that? So cute. And then, let's see, do I see that color anywhere else? Kind of do, actually. So we're going to kind of go down the nose line here a little bit, and then just do some little flicks on the edge of that one for some of the fur, and then there we go. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. And then I kind of see where it connects right here along this edge. And then it kind of goes down and around right there, kind of around where the fuzzy little chin would be. We're doing little diagonal lines off to the left. Oh my goodness, that's so cute. And trying to see if I see it anywhere else. This is a really pretty color. Okay. kind of do see it right about here under the chin. And this spot as well. Oh my gosh, this bunny is turning out so cute, you guys. I can't, it's so cute. And then diagonal down to the left on the left side. Oh goodness, this is so cute. Okay. And then a little bit here, a little bit there. A little bit down here. Wow, this bunny is so cute. All right, let's see. Let's try to see if I see it anywhere else before I switch colors. I do see some green up here, so I'm going to kind of go along the edge of the top of the head right there. That was like the perfect green for that. And then even along this side, kind of swoop out on that ear. Okay, and then actually this whisker up here, I'm going to do that because it's the same color as the one that goes down. The other ones seem to be more on the black dark side, so I'm not going to do those. So I need to add a little bit more of the creamy colors, I think, on the nose of the bunny. And I'm actually going to do the dark black areas of the eye, I think. I might actually have to rewatch to make sure I get all the colors that I used on the palette, because I want to make sure I gave you guys all the colors that I used. Oh, we also got to do the nose. That's like the same pink that's in the... Let's go back to that little peachy tone that we made and get the nose, the tip of the nose in. Oh my gosh, how did I almost forget that? Make it a little more pink. There we go. Just the tip of the nose and up above the left nostril, a little bit above the right. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot the nose. Okay, that's cute. So we got that in. And then what else? Some of that really dark green, I guess I could have put along that line. We're just going to kind of mix it with the same green that we were using, but mix it a little bit with that one that we made that was a little more bluer top, and then make it a little more darker. So we're going to mix it back into that original green. So we're going to do, oh, can't show you guys without, I'll use my left hand. I'll just kind of make some little tiny strokes with just the tip. Don't do what I do. Because it goes up. So I got a little ahead of myself there. There we go. All right. Oh, and then there's also a whisker right here. So we're just going to make some small little flicks for the whisker. And then same with that one. Okay. Looking good. So we're easing our way into the darker values. So down here, I would say it's a little mauvey under the chin. So you can use some mauve with the burnt sienna, and it should use some of that burnt sienna right there. It gives kind of like the bunny fur color. So we're actually going to use, actually that's kind of like an indigo. Now that I'm seeing it correctly, let's do about, do I have an indigo in here? Theo Indigo Violet. No, that's not it. I need more of a blue. I'm trying to see what colors I have out here. What is that one? Payne's Gray. Let's see what that will do. Ooh, yes, that is it. So I mixed a little Payne's Gray into that. And then I can add a little bit more of the mauve. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to water that down quite a bit. I think I'm going to add a little bit more of the Payne's Gray because it'll be a little bit bluer. So a bluer blue mauve color. Perfect. That's exactly what I was going for. Okay. And then we're just going to put that underneath the chin area. So there's this dark area that we already kind of placed it. We're going to do it over that. And then some little lines here going out toward the left, like diagonally. And then I'm going to place it where this line is right here under the chin. That is a little darker. So we're going to do that line first. So down diagonal to the right, and then kind of go straight down a little bit right here. And I'm going to add some more water just to water it down because this is a very light area. That was a little too light. There we go. We need to do downward motions because the fur goes down on the right side and a little to the right. So we're just going to place it and go a little bit above where we placed it darker because we will have to darken that line, and this one's actually probably dark enough, but I'll have to darken that line up again once that area dries and add some little darker details of that, so that way it, woo, that got really dark. There we go. Had to water it down quite a bit. So we're just going to make some, like, with the tip of it. Oh, it's still a little too wet. But we can kind of darken up that line. That's cute. Okay. Kind of darken up on the bottom, maybe touch just the top where it's still wet, and it will kind of bleed into it. Cute. That's turning out so nice. And then I also see some of that same color just a little bit right here in the corner above the mouth and a little bit over here. So it kind of goes diagonal down to the right, and then it goes diagonal down to the left when you go around to this edge and kind of up and around. And then also there's like this little line right here where some of the whiskers would be coming out. Let's see. Trying to think if I see that anywhere else. I kind of see it along the edge here. A little bit inward. Kind of water that down just a little bit so it's not so dark. And then I kind of see it along this edge. A little bit down here. Yeah, definitely around this edge right there. And kind of lightly up here on this right cheek. I'm just kind of scraping the edge of my brush like that. And then up here it kind of comes out just a little bit. you want to go from the top to the bottom and kind of use the tip and the side of it to swipe down diagonally to the right. Up above this eye, right here. Ooh, I see a lot of that up in here. Fun. Where else? Yeah, I guess it would just be more up in this area that I see some of that. I'm going to kind of mix in a tiny bit of that green that I still have left on the palette, the olive green, just a tiny, tiny bit. Hopefully you guys can see that. That was sitting there. And I'm just going to kind of swoop it over to the left because that's the direction the fur is going. Now right here, it's going down to the right. Up here in this midsection, it goes diagonally down to the left. And add a little bit more water. It also comes down to this section, but it's diagonal down to the right. This goes a little up that way and down. And up here, a little bit down that way. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely over this right here. So we're going to use a little bit of the darker version and just kind of use just the tip of it and darken this up. And then it also goes down this line on the nose that we already did. But I see that color in there. I also see it in this line right here under the eye. So we're going to drag that down. There we go. And then this line under this eye. That line right there. A little bit under that eye. Ooh, this color's also in the eye right here. But we're going to have to lighten that up before we can do that. There we go. And then in this eye, it's right there. So we'll have to let those dry before we can put the darks in. So you guys can see I just did like a dot right there. This kind of goes diagonal. There we go. And this one kind of goes diagonal. There we go. All right, trying to see if I see this color anywhere else. Kind of swoops down that way. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that color out for now. Let's see. I kind of want to darken up some of the fur on the ears a little bit. So we might have to get a base color in there, which I still have some of that pinky mauve color up here that we used before. I'm just going to kind of go in with that above the ear right here because it needs that pink to be there before I lay down some of the dark. So we're just going to cover that top ear section right here, but avoid this spot because that's more of a white. But we're going to make sure we cover both sides of the ears in the same area. That way when we add darker and darker colors, that light will still be there. Yeah, we'll still need that there. But we're going to go ahead and start darkening up the inner ears a little bit with that peachy color we mixed with the magenta and the yellow ochre. So I'm going to kind of mix that up a little bit here. And we're going to darken up the bottom portion of the ear. Right there, right there. And just kind of lightly touching, and with the tip, we're just going to go up and over. And then if I add a little bit of water in between these two, it will blend and kind of lighten up just a little bit. And right there. I'm going to get that same color and do the inside of this ear. A little bit of line right there. And I see it's a little more peachy on the left side. So I'm going to add a little bit more yellow ochre to that magenta color mix that we had. I think it needs a little bit more of the yellow ochre. And we're going to kind of blend it out. And a little diagonal there. And a little bit up here. Okay. So now the ears are starting to come to life. I like that. And that same color actually I see up here along the edge and up into the tip of that ear. Oops, sorry. Up into the tip of that ear. What else? Okay, so now that we darkened up some areas in the, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. The ears, we might start darkening up the fur along the outside. So we can go in with some, let's just do some burnt sienna. I'm just going to get that color back on the palette. And then, what do I want to darken it with? Actually, I might mix it with some of this, which was, I think this was the Payne's Gray. Let's see. Okay, that's the Payne's Gray. So scratch that. Don't use the Payne's Gray. I mean, we could. It has a dark value. We could use the Payne's Gray, but I don't think I want to use that. Changed my mind. Okay, let's just add some, let's do the burnt sienna with some of the alizarin crimson. Oh, as I drop my brush. Kind of darken that up a little bit. And then we're going to add some of the phthalo green to make it a dark brown. So we'll add some more of the alizarin crimson because we want it to turn brown, but we want a dark brown. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so let me put that alizarin down. Okay. And we're just going to add, it's kind of hard to show you guys at this angle, but we're just going to add with just the tip of the brush, we're going to add some little strokes up to the right in this area to give the feel of fur. But we're going to lightly, oops, I thought I was holding it so you guys could see. There we go. So just little flicks up to the direction that we're going. This kind of goes out to the right. We're just doing little flicks with the very tip of the brush. And up here it kind of goes up. In the middle it goes to the right. So up here it goes up and then more to the right. And we're just kind of filling this in with some fur. This side it goes a little more curved, like more of a rounded flick of the brush to get what we're trying to do. And then up here along this edge where we did some of that peachy color, we're also going to do some like straight lines, but a little more diagonal than straight across, but then more curved ones up there. We're gonna get some more paint on the brush. And then down here at the bottom, we're gonna kind of just do little lines, little flicks, and it kind of goes down, but a little up. The further up it goes more up in direction. So we're just working on midtones because we haven't even gotten the darkest darks on the edge of this ear or up here or even in the fur. So this is like the first layer of this color. I'm going to put some on the very tip of the head right there. Some little flicks upward. So cute. And we can kind of outline that top portion there. Give it some more dimension. This line also comes down. Brown in there. That line. Okay, so now we're going to do some of the fur on this side. And hopefully I'm not, yeah, it's blocking if I do it that way. So I'm trying to hold it up to show you guys. This kind of has like a line that goes down. And it kind of flicks out or down to the right. You guys see that? And then on the right side of the ear, it starts at the top and goes down. So I kind of notice there's a little and it's definitely darker toward the center of this. So we'll have to darken that up too. Good, good, good. We're just going to kind of trace the top of that here. And then on the edge of the ear, goes like this. So top down diagonal to the right. And then it's more of a cross the higher you go on the ear. Okay. That's so cute. I'm trying to see if I see this color anywhere else that it should be applied. It is kind of right here too. So we'll go down. Kind of swoops in. And right here, underneath this eye, it kind of has some too. And then the whiskers that go down on this eye. So right there, those two whiskers. And this whisker up here. This little whisker in front of the left eye. Use that top whisker. And the one that comes out. Okay, so the ones that are down here on the face, the whiskers, they're a lot darker. Some of them, like this one, we could use the same color on, but the rest of them are more like a black. Okay. Oh, I noticed this color is also on the nose. We'll just water it down, but it is also on the nose. Kind of goes over and then down and up this way. Perfect. And it kind of has that line up there. And then I also see it right here on this side of the nose, this side of the nose. And then we're going to kind of brush some of that down. And we'll do that on this side. Oh, it's looking so cute. And then a little bit up here in this little triangle. It kind of does meet the nose right there. And then a little bit there. A little bit up toward the eye. And then where else do I see it? A little bit down this way under the left side of the nose right there. And then over. And it also has some diagonal lines right here. Down to the right. And the fur kind of goes down this way, down to the right. So right there. Okay, so let's add the darks for the eyes. Now those, when you're mixing, like you don't have to use black. Yes, we could totally use black, but look beyond that and see, like when you're looking in your sources, what color it really is. Like for the eyes on the source I'm looking at is like the darkest blue you could ever imagine. So you could add like alizarin crimson, the phthalo blue, phthalo green, like all the really dark transparents you can mix together and make just a very rich dark color. So like I used some of the ultramarine blue and I mixed that into the mixture where we had the Payne's gray. So let me write that down, ultramarine blue. Okay. And I mixed that in with the Payne's gray. Did I write that one down? I don't think I did. We've used that one a lot too. Okay, writing that down. I'll definitely rewatch to make sure. And then we can add some of the alizarin in there. And see how dark that got? You could totally add in more colors to make it really, really dark. We can use like the phthalo green. Do I have? We can use some of that Prussian blue as well. We'll load that up. And see how dark that got? It's pretty much like a black. So, but to make it more blue, I'm going to add more blue. But I got to write it down that I used Prussian blue. Let's add some more of that to make it like the deepest, darkest, richest blue. Oh, it's so pretty. It's so dark. Okay, so we are going to use that for the eyes. Let's see how I can, you guys see that? Okay, so right above the eyes, like the darkest right there. And it kind of comes down where the eye is. And it goes down the front, a little diagonal toward the bunny. And right here under the eye, there's a little V. So make sure you get that little V. I'm gonna go down along the edge here. Sorry guys. And just this little spot right there, little spot right there. And it kind of goes over and down. So you're gonna want to get that eye put in there. And then, now the nose, you could do the same color, but to me it's more of a dark, like brick, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a dark red. So we're gonna get that little V under the eye on this side, right here, just with the tip of the brush. And then we'll do the top like this, down this way, and then it kind of goes up a little diagonal right there. Now for this eye, it kind of goes like just barely where it curves right there, and it goes straight down and then to the right. And it kind of goes up. I'm gonna do kind of just outlining it a little bit. We're not gonna go up all the way on this line because it kind of goes diagonal. And then you see some of these little lines. There we go. And then we fill in the bottom portion. Okay, so now we got that eye in. Oh my gosh, this is looking so cute. I cannot right now. All right, and I'm gonna put some of the whiskers in. Just little loose strokes. You don't have to be super perfect. And to vacuum up colors, like if you made a mistake and you wanted to vacuum up a color, you would get your brush super clean, get it really, really dry, and you can go over a color and it will come up. So you can vacuum up the color. Don't worry if you like make a mistake and put, you know, the wrong color or you put too much down. You can always vacuum it up. Watercolor is super cool that way. And then I'm just using the very tip of my brush to put in over these whiskers with that dark color. Because these whiskers are a lot darker. Especially this one down here. There we go. Such a cute little bunny. Like this long one here kind of goes the wrong direction, so let me kind of see if I can vacuum that one up. There we go. Okay. The angle of this is still driving me bonkers. There we go. It's a little better. Let's see. Where else? Oh yeah, I was putting in the whiskers. I was like, what was I doing? All right, this little whisker up here is a little darker too. So we're just gonna do that. And then these ones, we're gonna darken up. And you're barely using any pressure and just the tip of the brush to get the whiskers. So cute. And you want to vary the value in colors too. You don't want them all to be the exact same value. So like this one, I made it a lot darker to make it stand out more. So you don't want them all the same, but they can be close. That way it really gives it more life. And then I can use that same dark color around the nose area. So down the center here, we're going to use that, and then just around the mouth and about halfway up that side. And then it also looks like it kind of goes underneath the bottom portion of the mouth too. So for the nose, we're going to want to change the color. I also see some of the darkness down here, but I kind of want to render like up here the best we can, so the focal point is the face, not necessarily down here. So we have to darken up the rest of the ears up here, and then we could do some more dark up on the head, and then this nose. Now the nose, like I said, is like a deep red, so we can use the burnt sienna and the alizarin crimson until it makes like a deep maroon color. So I just mix kind of that alizarin crimson and the burnt sienna till it's very, almost like a blood red. We're just gonna do the nose. Oh my gosh, this is the cutest little nose. And then a little bit down right here. Okay, so we got the nose in. Looking really good. Okay, so we can get that color. Honestly, I think it's that same color that's up in the ears with that deep, rich red that we used in the nose. You can go ahead and use that to darken up the ear. Up here is actually more of like a black, so we'll just do the fur down here. And with the flicking motions, with the direction of the fur, because it definitely gives it more depth too by adding all the colors, because nothing is all just one color. And the tip of the ear, and along the edge of the ear, it really darkens up. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. So we're just going to darken it up here. And it kind of goes along the whole edge, so just using the very tip of it. It's definitely bringing it to life. Love it. Okay, and we're going to do this side. Just trying to make sure I'm going the right direction here. Hopefully you guys can see that. I just got to keep checking to make sure it's in frame. Okay, I'm just picking up some more color. That way I can do along the edge. There, a little bit up here. Okay. Just trying to see if there's any more of that color. is a really rich color. It's pretty. Okay. And I do see some of it down here too. So I'm just going to kind of sweep that down and down across this way. It's pretty light. And then I'm going to go back in with this super, super dark color that we used for the eyes. And I'm going to put that up here. And on this side. See if I can make that darker. And some of that Payne's gray. Some of the alizarin. Really want that to be dark, so I'm adding more of the alizarin and Payne's gray. I need more water. I'm like, it's not getting the color. There we go. To where it's almost that black. And then go back over that. See there, I just made a spot so you guys can see. Clean your brush really, really good so there's nothing on it. And then just dry it off the best you can and then stick it on there. There we go. And it picked up the spot. I'm just trying to make sure I'm able to show you guys. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm just going to do all of that again just to make sure it's dark, dark. And then on this ear, same thing. Just going to kind of darken that up. And then kind of along the head, there's also some dark, dark areas. Okay. All right, do I see anywhere else I need to add? Oh yeah, down here. So down here it is actually pretty dark under the chin. So we are going to darken that up as well. And just kind of go in that direction. Underneath the chin. So barely touching underneath the chin. Just so it creates that little bit of separation between the head and the body. There we go. And then just some darker areas in the fur down here. Some more water. There we go. Very cool. Okay. So I kind of see, I'm going to have a watered down version of that color, but it is darker in this area up here than it really looks. So we're just going to kind of give it some more, darken it up. I'm going to use the tip of the brush and then kind of come down from the top on this side, diagonally. Okay. Cute. All right, so now where it's like the whitest white, or like I see some yellow and white areas under the nose here. So to get some of that back, we can use some of the white. I'm gonna look up the whitest areas on the face. Oh, it looks like this one let me fix this eye. It looks like this eye kind of lost the indigo color that we made. There we go. Same with right there. There we go. Okay, so the whites that need to be white, we can use the white for. So along the edge of this eye right here, it's actually pretty white. So I'm just gonna kind of down some white along that eye on the left side of it. And then same with this one, even though this is like white, doesn't even look like it touched it right there. And up here, there we go. So that way the whites that are supposed to be white stay white. Like it helps with your values and gives it the dimension that it's supposed to have. So like even up in the ear right here in this area where we kept it white, I'm still going to throw in the white lines, even though I didn't put anything there. And there's like actually a white spot right here. There's white lines up here. And the ear area right here I just did with just the tip flicks up to the right. Let's see. And along this area right here, it too also has white, but it's more of like a yellow. So I'm actually going to mix in like barely. I could probably do, let's see. Let me get a spot of white on the palette real quick. And then, let's see, I'm going to take a touch of this green color that we had mixed on the palette and add that into the white. And then I'm going to grab some, what yellow is this? Hansa yellow. And I'm going to mix that in. And then I need to add a lot of white. So let me write Hansa yellow down. Okay. So I'm going to add even more white into that, so that way it's barely a hint of that color difference. And then kind of dab it off. I got quite a bit on there. So we're just going to kind of go around the nose right here along the side and then kind of do flicks like outward. So from the left to the right. And even along the edge here. Grab some more, and then along the edge over here, it's kind of a big swoop. And then just the tip of it, we're just going to do down and out motions. Oh my gosh, this bunny is so cute. And then, let's see, same with along the edge of this line, right here to the left of the nose, but on the inside. So you're just going to barely put any in. Maybe just one right there. And it has the same thing on this side right here and on the inside. We're going to start diagonally from the top working down. Try not to cover up the whiskers that you already got there. So I literally just put it right there and right there. But they were in diagonal down motions. hope that's paint. Looks like I got cut, but I think it's paint. All right, let's see. Even in between this whisker right here, it looks like there's some of that lighter color. And then one little whisker right here. Okay. So we did pretty good as far as avoiding the white spots where the white should be. So that's good. So I think that's really all that we needed to add. So I just need to let it dry. So yeah, that is our little abstract, not abstract, but more expressive bunny, because we captured like the essence of the bunny, like the colors. I could darken up a little bit in the ears, I think I'm actually going to do that. It needs to be darker. So I'm going to get some of that dark color that we made up right here. It's like a dark greenish brown. And then, let's see, I can add a little bit more of the sienna. And then, that's not the right color. Yeah, just a touch of the phthalo green. And then a little bit of the alizarin crimson to darken it up. And now I'm not going to add any water to that because I want it to be a darker version. So I'm just going to kind of darken up a little bit in the ears here with the little flick motions and just the tip of the brush. There we go. So see how I just did just the center section, kind of like a triangle going up. And then I'm actually going to do just the top tip and then a little bit of the edge up here. You guys can see that just up here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So you guys can see. I'm just going to do like a little flicks with just the tip of the brush. There's just a couple spots that are a little darker on that side. I'm going to kind of go over that top. There we go. That's looking better. Maybe a little bit of that eyebrow. It looks good. But I would love to see how yours turns out. So definitely tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your cute little watercolors. And guys, you can literally use whatever colors you want when it comes to watercolor or painting in general. As long as the values match, that's all that's the most important thing, that the values match. So you could use any colors that you see or any colors that you want. Just as long as it matches the value, it will still give it the form that you need on the painting. So yeah, thanks for painting along with me today, guys. This was a little bit longer of a video, but it was worth it. This was a lot of fun to paint and to be expressive with it and not so like perfectionistic, I guess. I'd much rather have a loose painting that looks like, wow, they had a lot of fun while they were making that. Like, it's really expressive. Look at all those colors. Like, I love that. It gives a lot of character to your pieces. So don't be hard on yourselves. Just be loose with it. Have fun. And hopefully you had a good time and you got to relax for a little bit. And I will hopefully see you on the next one.